afternoon, everyone. How we doing? Yeah, full house. I love it. I'm so happy you made time to spend the afternoon with us. Please, a very warm welcome to this next session at the AI House Davos, which of course you know you're here. Brought to you by Chain IQ and partners, Datamatics and Tradeshift. My name is Maria Montero, and it is my honor to be your guide over this next session. Now, how many of you are here for the first time in Davos? Okay, a few first-timers. All right, very nice. And any highlights? Aha! Good answer. I am going to go with that. Good answer. All right, so of course we've been surrounded by AI on every level. Here we are in the AI house, of course. And there's so much to go through. But if you're here, it's also because you know that once the headlines have settled, the dust, the hype, when we go beyond all of these things, you all want to know how much real value is being created for your companies, right? How much is really going to be important to you, especially when it comes to operations, cost savings, analytics, and decision making. So over the next 55 minutes, a little less, the AI house runs a tight ship, so we're going to do our best here. We're going to get some answers and some insight into those questions with our distinguished group of panelists, which I'm going to introduce in just a second after I say that this is also an interactive session. So, my goodness, there's so many people. It's an interactive session. So about halfway through, we are going to open it up to Q&A. So we're going to go old school, raise your hand, somebody will bring you a mic, and we'll take it from there. All right? Hi. Okay, so that is all in terms of housekeeping. Now I'd like to introduce my panel of experts. Marcel Stalder, Stalder, is the group CEO of Chain IQ, a global leading procurement service provider with over 15 offices across America, Europe, Asia, and serving 60 clients around the world and managing around $60 billion of spending. Prior to joining Chain IQ, Marcel spent over 20 years at EY, where he held many leadership positions, including CEO of EY in Switzerland. If I may, you and I had a very long discussion. I had the honor of interviewing Marcel when he was in this position for CNN Money here in Switzerland. And at the time, it was really great because we got to talk to you about how you had your finger on the pulse of digitalization. And now, today, we get to talk about having your finger on the pulse of AI. So I'm very looking forward to what you have to say about that. All right, next on our panel, Rahul Kanodia. He's Vice President and CEO of Datamatics, a global digital technology company serving Fortune 500 clients, joining us today from Mumbai. An AI enthusiast and thought leader, Rahul drives Datamatics' AI strategy, championing innovations in smart automation and digital technologies to boost productivity and customer experience. Under his leadership, the company has earned ISO certification in AI management systems, recognition as an AI first mover by Microsoft, and designation as a strategic partner by Google. A recipient of multiple CEO of the Year awards, he serves on the board of several companies and industry associations. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. And rounding out our trio of experts, Raphael Bres. He is Chief Product and Technology Officer of Tradeshift, a global SaaS platform for procurement-to-pay solutions, where he drives customer-centric innovation and AI-powered scaling of SaaS businesses. A seasoned B2B SaaS executive with deep expertise in product management, engineering, strategy, marketing, and operations. Has a career that includes leadership roles at Spiff, which was acquired by Salesforce, Financial Force, now Certinia, Workday, Microsoft, Oracle, PeopleSoft, and Deloitte. So thank you very much, the three of you, for being here. Welcome, very warm welcome. Now, before we get started, just a note to the three of you. I'm going to ask you a question, but before each of you answers, just give the audience a few lines, a little bit about your companies and where you bring your value. Yes? All right, Marcel, we'll start with you. We talked a bit about the AI hype. You know, it's created immense pressure around for companies to adopt it quickly. How do you evaluate whether an AI trend is really a technology that's truly valuable for your business versus, dare I say, distraction fueled by FOMO or, just fear of missing the boat?
Excellent, thanks so much. So first, GenIQ is a global leading AI tech-based procurement professional service company. What does it mean? We support our clients in running indirect procurement functions, significantly reducing operating costs and also having a positive impact on profitability. So on your question, whether it's a hype or whether it's to stay, I think I measure whether there is a long-term change in the overall agenda landscape, and I think AI, and we are all agree, I guess, is here to stay. I believe we are still at the beginning of AI, and so I think it will it will be decisive whether you are successful in the future, and I hope we can be then very concrete on the topic.
Wonderful, thank you. Rahul, FOMO, not FOMO?
FOMO, no FOMO. No, clearly not FOMO. Clearly not FOMO. So quickly on Datamatics, we are a digital technologies, operations, and experiences company focused on enhancing productivity and customer experience with an AI-first approach. We've been in AI for the last 12 years, quite deep in AI. More classic AI, and now generative AI as well. So on your question on FOMO, we've done several projects in AI, and we've delivered significant value. To give you one or two small examples, so there's one company we were working with. They do 70,000 transactions a day, and they were having 1,000 employees working on doing those 70,000 transactions. And after we deployed AI technology, we could reduce the time from 8 minutes to 4 minutes, so it's half the time. Reduce the headcount from 1,000 to 400. So that's a huge reduction. And improve the accuracy from 87% to 98%. So in many ways, it has given them a phenomenal ROI. Another example where we're working with some companies, we're analyzing 45 million pages of balance sheets every year. And they would take 5 days to process them. And after deploying AI, we do it in less than a day. And that's a huge productivity improvement for the financial analysts. So there's a direct ROI on that. But it's not easy it doesn't happen overnight. You've got to go through the journey on that.
You have to really do a lot of analysis, I assume, of the technology that comes your way. Right?
So I think the key element is really how do you focus on high volume transactions and labor intensive transactions with medium complexity rather than go for some exotic solutions.
All right.
So let's talk about, yes, let's talk about high volume transaction, because this is what we do at Tradeshift. Tradeshift is a specialized SaaS platform, procure to pay. We deliver innovative solutions to streamline workflows and tasks that are related to procurement, marketplaces, and payables automation. We basically enable businesses, buyers and sellers to transact and operate on our platform globally. In terms of volumes, we have transacted so far to $1.5 trillion in volumes, hundreds of million invoices and different documents, and our customers are operating in more than 100 countries. And this is for a business we have been operating for over a decade. Definitely not FOMO when it comes to the hype on AI. Many businesses were already doing large language model, predictive analytics, machine learning. But it's just because OpenAI made this technology available to mass and public that the hype started, and then massive investments that are probably fueling more the hype. But this is not FOMO. They are concrete benefits. We will talk about them, and we will illustrate them in practical examples.
Wonderful, which we will get into a bit later. But Rahul, then talk to me about, when you look at real world business impact, scalability, how does Gen AI, so generative AI, and differ from traditional AI approaches?
So traditional AI uses a lot of machine learning, genetic algorithms, these algorithms that mutate, NLP, regression analysis. That's traditional classic AI. And it's very, very accurate. Generative AI, by definition, is generative. It's predictive. So it does not compute. And therefore, it is intrinsically inaccurate. So there's a fundamental, therefore you've got to use a combination of classic AI and generative AI together to really give you an output that you want. The beauty of generative AI is that the interaction is in natural language and has put AI in the hands of every single person.
Yes.
Classic AI, you still need technical expertise. You still need to go deep into technology to do that. This just allows you, any person on the street can just interact with it. So that's the difference. But in terms of the accuracy, classic AI is far superior, but generative AI is very easy to use. And that's what's really causing this hype that you see.
Right. And scalability?
Scalability, classic AI is, you need technical expertise and therefore not so scalable. If you do it yourself, if you have got experts coming in, of course they can scale. Generative AI scalability is not an issue, but it is a problem with cost. It's extremely expensive. What we play with ChatGPT is free, is $20 a month, that's nothing. But when you go to the enterprise, it's very, very expensive. And therefore scalability becomes an issue unless you're able to optimize it for cost. And that optimization requires engineering behind it. But yeah, they're both very scalable.
Yeah. What's been your experience, Rafi?
On generative AI, this is basically in the form of ChatGPT, so it gives you an interface to communicate with those large language models, accessing those hyper data centers. You talked about, the risk of sometimes that they are predicting and inaccuracy and the bias that can come with those types of technology. And there is actually some ways that we can refine. It's called RAG, it's called Retrieval Augmented Generative. I really apologize for the technical term, but basically you pre-train the large language model on a particular set of information, documentation, that is probably product documentation, user documentation, anything that is internal to your company, and you give it as a context before you go with the prompt on ChatGPT. And this is going to increase dramatically the accuracy. But I agree that generative AI is just about predicting in statistics, does not understand the words they are putting together.
Okay, you look like you wanted to say something else. But,
No,
but then, so you touched on at least the cost side challenge of Gen AI. Marcel, what are the other perhaps common challenges that companies face when deploying AI? And what kind of advice could we collectively give leaders?
I mean, let's become very, very practical. So first of all, you said something very important. So it is really very costly. So don't go into AI without clear business cases. So at the end, what you get out need to be more than what you put in. Second, everybody says that, but it's not always what people follow. Technology needs to follow business and not the other way around. So how do we do that? We normally look at the process of the workflow of, for example, a procurement process. And then we identify, we do not just say we do AI everything, because that's not what you can do and what you should do. So we then identify activities within the workflow that are very labor intensive. And then we try to replace these complex human tasks. I mean, we should not take the most complex, but more and more complex human tasks, and replace that by agents. And agents is nothing than a software robot who then replaces these labor-intensive activities. And then these agents, they leverage large language models that we then train in the procurement slang, so that you can leverage the large language model in this procurement technology. So then you have what we call a vertical AI. And then they are based on domain-specific data sets. And that is what we do. And you need to do it top-down. So don't do anything on the data because you start with the data. Everybody says you need to collect data, that's true. But we start with the workflow, with the labor-intensive situation, calculate the business case, how much cost can we take out, therefore what makes sense, how much should that cost. And then we leverage these existing language models and the existing technology. And from there, we then go into the architecture as we need. It's a little bit technical, but never do anything without business model. Start from what you need and where you can save costs, and not just I want to do something AI because it's good for marketing and branding.
Again, FOMO.
It's the most costly branding that you will ever do.
Yeah, I think most companies that we come across, they really don't know what to do with AI. And we get this question, tell me what I can do. And what I can do means you could be all over the place. So it's very important to have a very clear focus to your point of business case. What are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to enhance customer experience? Are you trying to improve productivity? The other challenge we find with companies is that they get into an intellectual battle or challenge with AI. So let's see if AI can do this most complex situation. Right. And then they'll throw the most complex situation, and even humans can't solve it. So it's very important to take something that's relatively simple, because AI, generative AI today is still a toddler. It's still learning how to walk. It's not yet mature. It'll get to the Olympic race at some point, but today it's still barely learning how to walk. So you don't make it run the Olympic race when you're learning how to walk. So you've got to start small and jointly evolve with your partner. Very often customers expect a ready-made solution. You plug it in and it works, and it doesn't happen. So you've got to plug it in and it evolves, and you jointly do it together. And very important is use small language models. Small language models is very critical because it substantially reduces the cost. It's data sets that's unique to that enterprise, so it's very, very clean data, it's accurate data. And then you can have your own vector databases. When you do that, your cost is eliminated by 80-90%. So that's very important, to have your own small language models and then customize it for your use case.
And you and I talked about this a little bit
Yes.
over dinner last night, the small language models. But before we go there, challenges. Any other challenges that you've come across for companies when they're deploying AI?
When they are deploying AI, yeah, I think the challenge that we went through and we were able to overcome. Sometimes, we had a team spending too much time on trying to do the return on investment, and this is why decisions were not taken. Today, solutions like generative AI, even if they are not mature, I think they are quite performing. And solutions like Copilot, that's going to help you in productivity tools, like summarizing an email, taking notes. Those are table stakes. So meaning that don't wait for the ROI. It's proven that it will make the employee more efficient, more productive. Don't get behind, because generative AI, there is probably something that we'll talk later, what is coming in 2025. So this is something I will advise all the companies, even if you don't have the return on investment detailed study, you rather start to not be behind. Companies that are starting on using generative AI, Copilot solutions in coding, in your productivity tools, will get the competitive edge. This comes with a fixed governance. We can talk about this later. Just to mention that we are a little more pushy, and this is what we did in Tradeshift. So we delivered internal chatbot in RAG mode, pre-trained, and then we made them available to our users. So just wanted to mention this.
I'd like to add, I think what's very important is that you've got to look at situations there where you're not challenging the actual outcome. Look at it as a productivity tool. And if you look at it as a productivity tool and it enhances your productivity by 30 or 40%, that's fantastic. Customers expect a 90, 95, 90, or 100% improvement. 100% doesn't happen. You cannot replace a human being. But if you can improve his productivity by 40%, that's wonderful.
Right.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
Yeah, let me also add that often we ask, is AI accurate? No, it's not.
Hallucination.
But human beings are also not accurate. We also make mistakes. The question is, are they more accurate than an average human being? And I think the answer is yes. But we should not measure it by accuracy. We should measure it by productivity.
Absolutely.
And they definitely can boost your productivity. So they can take labor hours out. They work 24/7. So the measure is not accuracy, it's productivity. And so for me, the most use cases are in operations today.
So on that note, can you give us some specific examples of use cases?
As I said before, so we use it to replace human-intensive processes along a value chain. And I would not use it in the first use cases in legal or in regulatory, because it's not accurate. It's just, it improves the productivity.
To give you an example, there's one customer where we worked where they carry hazardous material in the trucks. And the driver needs to sort of access information from across 400,000 documents. Now, for them to manually do that is rather cumbersome. Using AI, he gets it in a jiffy.
Right.
So that's productivity. He still has to read the document. He still has to do what he has to do. But it gives him access to information from across 400,000 documents in a jiffy. Or there's another case where we've deployed computer vision across 2,500 stores, where it's analyzing the customers at the check-in counter or checkout counter and seeing how we can enhance customer experience and also detect fraud or pilferage. So when there's somebody stealing, shoplifting, and those kinds of things, but also seeing if the customer is at the counter for too long or the queue is too long, you're able to open up another counter and service the customer. That enhances customer experience. So these things help the enterprise ultimately deliver value to their customers.
What about you, Rafi?
So practical example. So actually, I wrote an article in 21. That was before, the OpenAI.
You wrote it?
On let the AI be the boss. And this was for the payable invoice approvals. And yes, it's proven over time that the AI is better than human. They are doing less mistakes. And then we allowed users to actually give a threshold of confidence. How much you want to give control to the AI, because you start low, and then when you see that the AI is more accurate, this is called supervised machine learning. We look at historical transactions that are good, and we train the AI on good transactions. And over time, obviously, this is better than human beings at some point. When it comes to very concrete case of generative AI, we have released internally a chatbot with all the product knowledge, way more than you would expect technical. This is used internally by all departments, services, sales, product. Externally, we are providing the same tool for our users. If they have any question on the product, on the interface, they will be able to operate. Never tired, 7/24, always there.
Awesome. I just want to say that we are going to open up the floor now to questions. So feel free to raise your hands along the way. Oh my goodness, already. Go ahead. If we have a microphone for this gentleman in the, what is that, checkers? No, we don't. Okay, go ahead. I think I will repeat it.
Without microphone, okay, briefly. So Peter Fischer, professor of marketing and AI at HEC Paris. So first of all, so many thanks for the nice conversation. But what I always experience is that there's a really, really strong focus, let's say, on productivity gains, as you said, right? And on immediate value to the company. I'm actually wondering, I'm going more into the direction what Rahul actually said. So how do you actually measure, let's say, more the long-term and indirect value you're actually creating via AI? Think about customer experience, as you said. I'm really curious about what kind of measurements you actually have in place, because that's pretty hard, and I haven't seen that many best practices right now, because it's hard, but I think it's important, because I think it's really important that you also enhance value to the customers and not only think internally.
So couple of things. So there are no best practices yet, because they're still evolving, and it's evolving very, very fast. And it's moving at a pace you cannot even imagine. Just to give you a data point, about a year ago, if you measure an IQ of an AI system, a generative AI, it was at about 80. Today, we are at about 120. That puts us in the top 10% of the human population. In the next 12 months, it's going to be about 140. Some people already claim to be at 140. At 140, it puts it in the 0.48% of the human population. That's only 3,800 people out of 8 billion have that level of intelligence. So super intelligent. If you can have this intelligent agent or assistant in your organization as your assistant, that gives you a lot of power. The other thing I would say is that some companies who will deploy it well will get ahead of those who don't deploy it well. And the normal competitive forces, these guys will get ahead, those companies will fall behind. It's a matter of time. Those who deploy AI across the board will survive. Those who don't adopt AI will be out of business. It's a matter of time. It's 5 years or 7 years. So to your question about long-term value, I don't think it's so long-term. I think in 5 to 7 or maximum 10 years, you'll see companies dying.
But let me add something. I think it would be a misunderstanding if we, and I think the same for you, Rahul, that we only look internally at AI. So when we replace these workflows through agents, then user experience is a driver, and it really is. Another one is cycle time, and another one is then cost. We are a little bit back to the old day time, cost, quality measures, but user experience is definitely a measure. And then rather than having losing a lot, but that's my opinion, losing a lot of time on long-term, almost esoteric, rather you have an idea what it should do, coming from the business, time, cost, quality, experience. That's what you measure because that's what your drivers are, and then you make sure you put less in that you get out, and start there rather than you want to do too much.
I'll give you an example. Sorry, please. No, I don't.
I would like also to answer the question. All those AI needs to align to our strategic objectives. Okay, so when we adopt AI internally, this is to improve customer service. We want to have less customer tickets. We want to have our CSAT going up, our NPS going up. We want also to have the time it takes to resolve a ticket to go faster, even not open it. So you can measure all of this. If you want to define success metrics and metrics, we not call them return on investment. The return on investment is you will become more competitive and you will be better and your operating costs will go lower. So at the end, you will be probably more profitable.
So to give you one example, and I referred to that earlier. So this customer was taking 5 days to analyze financial data. Because we could deploy AI, he could turn it out in 1 day. On the basis of that, they launched a new product saying report on demand. And the consumer could then get a report literally in a matter of maybe 12 hours. Earlier, it would take a week. And that enhances the customer experience. Not only that, but this new product is now growing at 30% per year for them. So that's a phenomenal revenue growth for the same company. Yeah.
Thanks.
Hi, Rahul said, you said 30 to 40%. I just want to put in 2 data points and see your comments. So I was working with a CEO who does land management. She was assembling a large parcel of 300 different landowners, and it would normally take her 80 hours. She used ChatGPT, and it was 10 minutes. So as a productivity gain, that's near infinite. The second case is Google's DeepMind AlphaFold. It used to take a PhD student 5-year career to study how one protein folds exactly. AlphaFold does it in 2 seconds. And when you do the math on that, that's a billion X productivity. I feel a Dr. Evil moment coming on. X productivity improvement. So, is 30, sure there's hype, but also there's productivity cases far beyond 30 and 40%.
Of course.
Comments.
Yes. There are many cases of those types, but there are few. If you go to the normal enterprise, they are very afraid because they've got legacy systems, they've got employees, they are trying to replace the whole thing, and there's this fear that AI will replace my job. There's a fear that with AI, I will lose data privacy and data security. It'll go out to the world. So all of these play out. So to your point, yes, productivity gain can be substantially higher, but you've got to factor in the realities of life. They're not going to throw away $100 million of investment they've done in the IT infra. So you've got to, AI has to become invisible in the enterprise. It has to go integrated into the enterprise. That's when it'll give you. The point I was making is even if it gives you a 30, 40%, that's great. You can go for a 90%. That's fantastic, or $1 billion in this case. But yeah, it's great. And yeah, sorry. Those are my sort of views.
It's a little bit like blockchain, technology is looking for an issue. And when you go that path, you will find one use case that has these kind of outcomes. But if you come from an existing business and you have an existing issue and you want to improve that, I think as a first step, 30 to 40%, call it a success, and then take it from there and go further. We need to talk reality,
So this is screaming to start those projects and not wait for them. This is what I will really recommend to every company is to start them as soon as possible because there is more coming and this is so fast that even AI researchers, they have challenges to keep up. Okay, we are now on a weekly, daily release of new models, new technology. You talk about small language models, which is coming very big as well. This year and next, for sure.
Talk to us a little bit more about what you've seen in terms of the small language versus the large language models.
Yeah, so as opposed to large language model, we can take the example of GPT-4o. It's trained on 1.7 trillion parameters, which is basically the whole internet. Okay, and they are because they are extremely resources hungry. It's very capital driven. So you need data centers, you need energy, you need water, you need CPUs, graphic cards. To an extent that you have now a new data center with 100,000 cards. You know, this is, I think, the XAI. In comparison, a small language model, they are trained on a reduced number of parameters, generally is a billion below, and even one of the latest was on 82 million parameters. Why this is important? Because they can operate on smaller devices. They can operate on your phone. They can operate on your laptop. So you need basically a factor of 1.5x of the parameters in memory to operate them. It will drain your battery down, but at least you can operate them. And there are use cases like first aid assistance, medical assistance, that you don't need to know about cocktail recipes or Shakespeare literacy on how to build cathedral. I mean, those are the things that it's unfortunate that we will have to run a hyper data center where you don't need this. And some of those small language models, they can operate without the internet. So I just want to, this is the future. And because they are the large, resource hungry, maybe not sustainable, this is why there is so much research and investments in small language models.
In fact, you are even now beginning to see tiny language models, not only small language models coming in for edge devices. And that's coming in very soon.
Tiny, all right. Wait, hang on just a second. There was a gentleman here who already had his hand up, but then.
So hello, my name is Carlos de Castro. I work for ABB and I am in manufacturing. I actually had a similar question as my colleague here on the reducing waste versus increasing value. So you answered already, so I had to quickly pivot in another question, which I did. We heard Ana Maria mentioning the FOMO, the fear of missing out. But in the previous panel, I heard for the first time an interesting expression, which is the FOBO, the fear of becoming obsolete. So when you speak to entrepreneurs, to business leaders, what do you advise in terms of managing this with your workforce? Because at the same time, you want, of course, to get to an excellent level, but you don't want to destroy the confidence and the energy of your workforce. So how to manage the FOBO?
If I am allowed to go first. So, you know, none of us has a crystal ball, so we don't know what the future will bring. But my expectation, my opinion is, it will even create job. Because when there was this first Model T production, you know, in automotive, then everybody said, oh, there will be no jobs anymore. But it created jobs for producing this kind of technology. A couple of years back, you know, iPhone is in the market since 2007. Today we have jobs to program applications, you know, to serve, maintain all that. So we created, every technology created more jobs. If you say Gen AI is very costly, why is it very costly? Because it consumes an incredible amount of people to program, you know, try and error. So far, at least, every technology produced jobs that we didn't have at the time. The problem is, you know what the jobs that might go away, but you don't know yet the jobs that get created. So it's an unfair comparison. I think that is a little bit the bias.
But to your point on people fearing obsolescence, it is a reality, and people need to move fast. What we have done in our company and what we do with several customers is democratize AI. So let everybody play with it. And if they play with it, the fear goes away, and you start having fun with it. And that's when they become comfortable. When they use comfortable, they will actually use it as a productivity tool. And they will not be obsolete, because then they're using this as a tool to become more productive and do a lot more value-added stuff, and let the labor-intensive stuff be done by the AI engines. So I think it's very important that everybody just gets their hands onto it. Even if they use ChatGPT, that's fine. That's easy. That's free. Even if you do that or Midjourney, any of these Anthropics, and then once they're comfortable, you get it into the enterprise, where it's much more serious in terms of the deployment.
And Rahul, if I may, what other strategies have you implemented to effectively upskill then the workforce that?
So we have done a lot of training programs. Almost every single person is trained, whether they use it or not, but they're trained, so they know what it is. Second is we put them on a pedestal. Whoever's delivered a good, successful project, we make heroes out of them in the company. So suddenly, everybody wants to look at them and say, aha, this is what I want to do to get recognition within the organization. And everybody loves that. So you need to recognize people who are demonstrating success in deploying these technologies and removing the fear. I think that's key.
Does that answer your question? Your second question? Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
Lady in the front.
Hi, I'm Namrita. I'm a tech founder, and I run a community called the Humanist Collective, Speak for the Humans. So my question is this. You talked about upskilling. How do you upskill humans to extract value from AI? Because the technical skills, the AI is already taken care of. How do you make sure that empathy and the human side is surfaced?
So AI today has empathy already. It at least simulates it, and it simulates it very well. Now, whether it actually feels it or not, we can debate that, but it does simulate it, and it does a fantastic job of simulating it. I think what's important is how do people use it and feel comfortable. And if you're having an affair or you're having a divorce or something, that's heavy on emotion. How do you deal with that? And the AI has the repository of information from across, and it gives you a fairly good analysis of how the other side could react or how you should react. Now, you don't have to accept it, but it gives you very good data points. And using that data points, you then use it, so that I think emotional element, the fear factor is key, and training people on how to address that is an equally important element. Therefore, the HR team in any organization needs to get involved with the people and train them on changing the mindset. And that's very critical. And I think HR plays a very important role in changing that mindset.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not so sure whether I would fully agree on that. AI has empathy. So if somebody asked me what should young people focus on, I would say communication skills, intercultural understanding, so go out, go in other countries, empathy, emotional intelligence, I think creativity, I think
So be
that
human.
is very, the most human of our capabilities. I think that will be very difficult to replace, because, I mean, you can calculate certain things, because all that AI does is, it produces outcomes based on statistics, just fishing throughout a lot of data. But if for whatever reason, you want to change the agenda or the culture, the engine cannot do that themselves. So I think that, and I'm very happy that it is that way. But on the other side, to support what you said, I mean, there are the first people who fall in love with AI girlfriends, that you can program yourself and then you fall in love, I mean, perhaps I'm the wrong generation for that, because I think through and say, no, actually that's just an engine. Yeah. But because we have seen the world before. But I think in the future, picture the unbelievable. I think it might be that real human beings mingle up with machines, who look like us, and they become your teacher, your coaches, and you start to feel emotionally good, or they help you to calm down, and it's actually just like you do Ayurveda, it's...
You are also not agreeing. What do you think, Rafi?
So I think it's two parts, the leadership and then the governance, because some people, they don't use technologies because they don't know what is allowed, what is not allowed. Remember that for the young generation coming to the workforce, we were telling them that if you use AI for your exam, you're cheating. Now that they are in a consulting firm, if you don't use AI, you're irrelevant. So and you see this generational type of discussion that it can trigger. I said blunt things to my team sometimes because I use exaggeration for the purpose of the explanation. I told them in 2023 that if they don't use generative AI to my product managers, they will become irrelevant. And this is very direct, very brutal, but then it's leadership. We need respectfully to also train them. So we have developed AI governance, internal and external, on how to use those tools to make sure they know what are the limits and the boundaries, or what is possible and what is allowed. But I agree with you that knowledge workers are stressed and should worry rightfully. Now, not replacing creativity, I don't think that AI could have come up with a rocket launcher that we catch with 2 arms. I don't think it could have come up with this idea. So I think that we can still trust, and there are a lot of those ideas in the history. And remember, AI can only based on the data. So experience or thoughts are still possible if this is the trait of humans. Yeah.
I love this conversation. Because when we're thinking, you know, like if technology can replace somehow our thinking model, I have to defer that I don't remember any phone numbers anymore. And it's more difficult for me to do calculations without a calculator. So I'm worried that AI eventually will make us lazy in thinking on and using that brain power for our creativity. So I would love you guys to give us one tip to improve our creativity with AI that we hopefully can ask our team so they don't lose it, they don't become lazy on not using it. What would you do, or what are you doing already?
I think we as human beings always worry about the last capability we are losing. Nobody here is worrying about us no longer capable to catch fish, you know, like our ancestors 20,000 years ago. So we always worry about the last thing we are losing, but I think it's a little bit a reality of evolution, I guess, on one side. And why? Yeah, I still love to be out in the nature. I think you should never be on the too extreme side. So I'm no longer there where I fall in love with a bot, you know. But, yeah. But I think it's just normal. We need to be realistic about it.
So on creativity, I think that's very important. And we need to have programs for creativity. And people need to be taught creativity. And on a personal side, I did that with my children when they were very young. And you know, think of some weird things. What all can the color orange be deployed on? A life jacket, a boat, or what can you do with a bottle cap? And you can make it flat and throw it like a frisbee, or you can use it as a cutter, or you can use it to draw circles. So this is just training them on thinking out of the box. To your point on creativity, when I was in India, I grew up in India, we were not allowed to use calculators. When you did accounting and mathematics, it was all manual calculations. So you're really very sharp. But today, we don't use that. We use a calculator. You're far more productive. And now with generative AI, you don't even need to do that. You just put the data on the Excel sheet and it gives you the graphs. You don't even need to analyze that anymore. But using that, you've removed all the labor-intensive work that you were doing. And now you're using the analysis of the graphs and the data to take important decisions. So you're doing far more value-added stuff and far more important. And I think that's the key. And it's not about, you know, how do I calculate?
But the unbelievable thing is that the more we become productive with the calculator, the AI, you know, all these tools, but somehow I feel we have less and less time. Yeah. And therefore, I'm not worried about unemployment.
True. Did you want to add something?
So in technology, because we are really a software provider and we need to come up with creative ideas. So we do hackathon, we use different stacks of technology, Microsoft Azure AI, sometimes we'll use, you know, AWS Bedrock, different types, you know, Anthropic, also Cloud Sonnet. And those hackathons, I can guarantee to you, they did come up with some. This is when you see the human trait. Some of them I cannot mention because I believe we should patent some of those ideas related to sound or music and graph. I can give you an idea of things that did come up. I don't think the human creativity will be, this is not the fallout of the human creativity. I think jobs will be repurposed, jobs will be changing, knowledge workers should probably try to think what's next, because in 1 year, I believe this is maybe replaced or evolving.
1 year.
It goes that fast, and there are already numerical examples with very large companies. I cannot mention names, obviously, by rules here, of companies. I can mention technology, but not except my company. But yeah, there are examples that you will find. The ratio is 100 to 1, replacing 100 people with AI, one AI.
But perhaps what we should, yeah, go.
I'm sorry, there was a woman in the back who was waiting.
Thank you so much for this very interesting discussion. My name is Jala Spahic. I come from Norway, and I work as a leader for responsible AI for an energy company, a very risk-sensitive domain, if you may. So I just wanted to comment and then have some questions along the way. There were already so many good questions. I took some notes, actually. I wanted to comment on way at the beginning of this session about productivity and accuracy discussion. I don't think productivity and accuracy are mutually exclusive. I think we can aim for both. We don't want to live in a world where speed to achieve a target is the only thing that matters. So that is one thing I wanted to mention for the beginning. And I also think that there is a risk of over-promising in a technology that does not deliver. Already last summer, I have seen, if you spend so much time on LinkedIn as I do, that many companies have actually pulled out their licenses from Copilots and similar because they haven't seen employees use them in a quality way to justify what they're paying for yet. So I wanted to say that this increase in materiality or materialization of AI systems must be followed by the increase of safety governance. And unfortunately, we are seeing that that's not always the case, because when you go around and we all see the opportunity in AI and people want to do it because they want to do something either better or faster, or they want to do something more consistently or at scale. It brings us scale, right? But we sometimes forget that incidents can also happen at scale, and failure can happen at scale. So I wanted to end with a question. What are the safeguards that you are proposing and recommending to actually capture these gaps so where you can lose the reputation by these mistakes that are coming out from FOMO? And what are these safeguards and frameworks that you implement for employees not to use these tools passively, but to actually build towards this productive and efficient future while safe at the same time? Thank you.
And just FYI, we got 6 minutes and 19, 18, 17 seconds. Let's keep it short.
I can take a quick shot on this one. Mistakes carry extreme consequences. We should not give AI autonomy. You don't want to have a nuclear power plant entirely managed by AI. We didn't talk about warfare and those autonomous AI weapons. Those are the things that are profoundly, and need governance. There was the AI EU Act signed, and if you remember, we were asking the same question on data privacy, and Europe has GDPR, and you will find also CCPA in the US, in California, unfortunately. But just to give you that governance is and governments, you talked also about those resources, and we understand now that those data centers are consuming enormous amount of, and this at some point should be government control and not be privately controlled. This is what I believe, as they are taking so much resources, not talking about the intellectual property, I'm talking about the capital and the investments and those precious resources that you didn't mention.
Yeah, I think it's very important, the governance. So we have, in all the solutions that we build, we have incorporated guardrails that ensure within the regulation that's there today, that is functioning within parameters. Outside of that, on our own initiative, we tend to keep it very tight so that it does not go off in different directions. But that's our own initiative. There's no guidelines on that. But that element of governance is critical. What I am most afraid of is actually state-sponsored abuse of AI. And there are enough countries, we won't name them, but who will abuse it for their own political agendas, global political agendas. And that's dangerous because who governs the government? Like a corporation, you can still find them, you can shut them down, you can sue them, but the government, it's difficult. So I'm really afraid of that, and that could be very dangerous.
And you asked a couple of questions actually. First one, you said it's not necessarily either accuracy or productivity, and I think you gave the answer at the very beginning. You can actually combine traditional AI with Gen AI, which gives you higher accuracy. And number two, I think this is not new. We talk about operational risk management. You know, operational risk management after Basel II is about process, system, people failure, and external events. And we definitely need to adopt the op risk models. And we needed to adopt that in the past. I remember the times in the 90s, op risk was a focus just on the process of your company. You know, it started, the first process ended there. And then after Fukushima, we realized, the whole thing happened because of things outside the company. And so we started to then bring in all our partnerships and the external effects and the network effects of these things. And now that just needs to go to the next step. You know, we need to bring that in our op risk models. But it's a very, very important thing.
Yes.
All right, that leaves us with 3 minutes. So, okay. Oh, yes, go ahead. All right, do it. Make it quick. 3 minutes.
So I'm an entrepreneur from India. I work in the education space. You talked about EQ, creativity, and analytics. If you had to go back to college today, knowing what you know about the present and whatever we know about the future, what would you study and why?
Okay, that's a great closing question. You've all done my work for me today. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think I would study creativity, very important. I would study technology, because if you understand technology, you know how it evolves. Otherwise, you will be obsolete very fast. So technology and creativity would be the two most important things I would really focus on.
So I would first try to figure out what I'm really good at, because you should strengthen strengths and not compensate for things that's just at the hype or at the moment. So always study something where you are energized and positive. Then you cannot go wrong, first of all. Second, I think I would do again business or technology, because but it starts with business. And if you don't understand markets, if you don't understand client needs, then you don't know where to start with technology.
Me, I will recommend prompt engineering. Let's be tactical on this. How LLM works. Who knows here what the acronym of GPT means? Sorry. So it's a minority. That's not interesting. No, it's generative pre-trained transformers. But this is basically the story of how this LLM is working. And then ethics, just to make sure that they use those technology with ethics. And this is what we try to, this is the young generation, they need to understand technologies are as good as the people using them.
I think you have a full curriculum right there, just here. I think you're set. All right, so thank you so much, everyone, for being such a great audience. This was so fun. Thank you. Thank you so much.